What we're going to do for tonight is we are going to go ahead and get started on our numbers. I always like to say, it's like my favorite phrase to say before we ever start numbers is that you can actually go up to 999 on one hand. And I'm being very serious. Like, I don't know. That's like my favorite thing to tell people because they're always like, what? Because we're always in our mind thinking you can only go up to maybe five, or maybe like if you start bouncing. No, there's a cool way you can go up to 999 on one hand. So I'm going to show you. The first thing we'll do is we're going to start with, we're kind of like chunking it by about fives. 0 through 5 is very basic. We know most of them already. So first number we're going to do is the number for zero, which is zero. Then we have one, two, three is going to be your thumb out, so three. And this one can be a hard one to remember because we've grown up always doing three, 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 three. I really recommend practicing as much as possible on your threes because this one you're really going to want to do. If you make this mistake, it'll make the whole thing confusing. And I'll explain that in a minute. So three, four, and five. So all of those numbers are pretty much the numbers we've known. The only one that's different is our three. So, do you have a question? No, you had your hand up, and my instinct is as a teacher is, oh, I see a hand up. What's the question? Didn't mean to scare you. I was like, do I see it? That's the teacher in me coming out a minute there. My bad. Okay, so now let's do 6 through 10. Okay, so for six, you're going to do six. Okay, so like if this is why I said if you did this for three, this is going to get confusing because this is six. Okay. Seven is going to be your ring finger, and you're going to bring it down. So it's like touching your thumb. My nails came off, guys. You can't see when I put my fingers together, and I'm sorry. Eight is going to be your middle finger. hmm Nine is going to be your pointer finger. hmm And then 10 is going to be a thumbs up, and you're going to shake it. 10. Okay, let's do 0 through 10 again. All right, so we had 0, 1, 2, 3. I know that one, it's a really hard habit to break. Trust me, I get it. I was there once too. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So the little trick I always like to tell every class whenever we do our numbers is for your six, seven, eight, nines, and nines, basically, not your 10. 10 is a different one. I always recommend if you think about it like this, as you're counting your 1 through 5, you're putting up more numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then it's almost like for 6 through 9, you're coming back to your thumb. So 6, 7, 8, 9, and then back to your thumb for 10. So that's my little trick. If that helps, great. If it doesn't, just smile and nod. That's always like what I tell people. Just don't worry about it. If it doesn't work for you, that's okay. Um, so let's see. Oh, I remember there's something else I was going to say, and I remembered it. So if you have noticed, though, our six and our nines also look like our F's and our W's. They're the same sign. So how would you differentiate that? What's really interesting, and you'll notice as we progress with this class, the one thing I'm probably going to say a lot is context clues. And that is a big thing. So that means that when you're talking to someone, and if you're saying, well, my name is, and let's say you're saying it's Wanda, they're going to know you're not saying it's 6ANDA. All good, no worries. We're about to go through the numbers again too, so you're not missed too much. So there, everyone's gonna know for the most part. You're not saying 6 a.m. day is your name. That's just kind of a common. Most of us always have our letters, so they're gonna know you mean Wanda. The same thing if you're saying your name was Felicity. They're not gonna think of this as a 9. They're gonna automatically assume this is an F. Same thing goes for phone, like for numbers. So if you're talking about a phone number and you're saying my number is blah, 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 they're going to know when you do this, you mean a 6. So the context clues will really help that. But there are those cases, like for example, usernames or passwords where you do have letters and numbers kind of blended in. And so what you do is you're going to actually add the sign, I keep doing that, the sign for number and the sign for letter. So I'm going to show you guys those. So the sign for number is two little flat O's. So they're not fully O's like this, they're a bit flat. And you're going to go number, number, number. And so number 1, number 6, number 3, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So if you were type, or well, let me do this one. Letter. The next one is letter. It's going to be an L, and you're going to put it on top of your pointer finger. Letter, letter, letter. So let's say we're saying it is, think of W's and N's, W's and N's, W's and F's. Fall, fall 93. Okay, I'm making up. I would do letter FALL, then number 93. Okay, so you just had added right before you sign that number or that letter, whichever one you're doing. So that's how you would clarify and emphasize like this is a number, this is a letter. Okay? All right, so now let's go back to our numbers. So let's do 0 through 10 one more time. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna voice it and then I'm gonna do like a delayed sign. So give you guys an opportunity to sign it. Oh, that's actually a good question. No one's ever asked that before. Oh my gosh, sorry. Like I love whenever we get new questions that we haven't had before. It like always I love it. It's capital. So it's a C and you do capital. This is also like captain. So capital L or L. What am I doing? Capital letters. Capital
Jillian, is it also capital city?
that I'm not sure. It probably could be. I've not seen a sign for that capital city. It could be. I'll double check on that. So, but good question. Okay. Well, let's go back. So we had our 0 through 10. So 0, 1, 2, 3. Good. 4, 5, 6. So remember it. Yep, there you go. 6, 7. 7. Make sure it's your ring finger. So there you go. Perfect. 8. Good. 9 and 10. Good. Awesome. Okay. All right, perfect. So now we're going to move on to 11 through 15. Okay. So these are going to be similar to our 1 through 5s. There's just like an added motion to them, pretty much. Okay. So for our 11, we're going to have one pointer finger and we're going to flick it up. 11. And it is important, you want to have the back of your hand facing that way. You don't want to do this. That's not 11. That looks like you're talking about either popcorn or something is flickering. So you want to do 11. Okay. Then 12 is 2 fingers. 12. 13 is going to have them together with the thumb out, and you're going to make that come here motion. 13. 13. 14 is 4 fingers, same motion coming here. 14. And then 15, you're going to stick your thumb out. 15. Okay? So we had 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Okay, so those are our 11 through 15. We will be stopping around 25. I'm sure you're thinking, this girl's gonna about to do 999 signs with all of us. No, we're not counting. Like, I'm gonna teach you there's a concept and a way to do it, but we're not going all the way, counting all the way up to 999. I'm not that crazy, okay? So we're gonna now do 16 through 20. There are two ways you can do 16 through 19. I'm gonna show you both. You pick whichever one you're comfortable with, okay? So the first one I'm gonna do is 16 is you're gonna have a six and you're gonna shake it. 16. So this is the first one. The other one is going to be your pinky is going to bounce on the side of your thumb. 16. 16. 16. Either one works. I've seen 16 and 16. I have seen both. I tend to do 16, but I've caught myself a few times doing 16 as well. It's just more of a comfortability, like however comfortable you feel with it. I think also this one helps for younger kids when it's hard to bounce that pinky up and down. So 16 or 16. Okay. 17 is going to be a 7. And you shake it again. 7. 17. Goodness me. I love how I just said 7 because I had already shown you guys 7, and my brain's just like, no, we're not going to finish that. 17. Or 17. So bouncing your ring finger on your thumb now. 17. Again, if this is not comfortable, definitely go for the shaking 17. That's totally fine as well. Okay. 18, same thing. Gonna have an 8. We'll shake it, 18, or bounce, 18. Okay. The next one's going to be 19. So same thing, 9. You shake. Or 19. You bounce it. Okay. So then our last one is 20. So 20 is going to be, my mind is always thinking baby shark. Baby shark, 20. So, but that's also because like I worked at a summer camp with Miss Katie's kids as well. And one of our things that we grew up on was Baby Shark. Way before like the song and the TV show came out. Like I just thought I'd like to say that there. So this has always been Baby Shark to me. So 20. Okay, let's go back to 16 through 20. You guys can choose which sign you want to do. I will accept either one. I will still show both. And if you just want to do one, or if you even want to try both, you can. It's up to y'all. Okay, so we had 16, 16, or 16. 17, 17, or 17. 18, 18, or 18. 19, 19, or 19. And 20, 20. Okay, awesome. Okay, so now we're gonna finish out our little starter numbers with 21 through 25. Now, the reason we start there and we kind of stop at 25 is because of those 5 numbers, yeah, had to double check. I almost want to say 4, and that's what I was like, that's not right. Math teacher, not mathing right now. My bad, you guys. All right. But of these 5, 3 of them have their own sign, and then 2 of them are going to have similar signs that you will see as the pattern that continues to the rest of the numbers. Okay. So that's why we kind of stop after 25. So the first one we're going to do is 21, is you're going to have an L and you're going to bounce the thumb. 21. 21. Okay. Then the next one we have is 22. So for 22, you're going to have a 2 and you're going to bounce it. 2, 2, 22, 22. So 2, 2. Okay. 23 is you're going to have a 3 and your middle finger is going to be bouncing. 23. Good. So it's just your middle if you can. So 23. Then for 24, we're going to do that same thing we did with our 22. So we're going to go 24, 24. I typically, when it's a double number like 22, 33, I will have them more down like this. But when I'm doing numbers like 24, 27, 28, 29, I kind of have them up higher, 24. 23, like that. You can do that. Yes. Yes. I always add that. I come back to that afterwards, but yes. So she asked if you can do 23. You can. If this is hard or this is uncomfortable, you can definitely do 23. They will still know you're talking about 23. I keep doing it down. 23. They'll still know you're talking about that number. So we have our 23. Do I have another chat? Oh, it was the chat from earlier. I just wanted to make sure I saw the little ping, so I didn't want to miss anybody's. So we had 24, 24. So 2, 4, 2, 4. Mm-hmm. And then 25. So 25 is going to have a 5. Your ring and your middle finger are going to come together and bounce in between. 25. It's almost like Spider-Man. That's what I think of. Spider-Man. So 25. This is another one. If that does not feel right, or if you forget it, you can do 25, 25 as well. That one will work as well. Okay, let's go back 21 through 25. Then we're going to go back 0 through 25. Okay? All right, so we had 21, 22, 23. So it's your pointer and your middle finger, and then your middle one is the bouncing one. 23, 24, 24, and then 25, 25. And again, like I say, if it's like these are probably the ones that are more of a struggle. It's very fair, very valid. Understand. You can do 23, 24, 25. Especially if you're in a situation where you forget the sign for those numbers. You can just go ahead and sign them. Okay, let's go back. So we'll go to 0. So we had 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, good, 7, yep, 8, 9, 10, 11. So make sure you're back here. There you go. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. There you go. 18. There you go. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. Okay. So, how are we feeling on the numbers so far? Feeling good? It takes practice. I know. Okay. So the nice thing though is that for all the way up to 99, you pretty much are going to do that same pattern that we did with our 24 or 24 kind of motion. So the only difference will be when you're talking about your your zero numbers, your tens numbers. So our 30, 40, 50, 60, even easier. Okay. So if it's 30, you have a three and you just bring it into a zero. 30, 30. 30. That's it. 30. Then for 40, it's 40, 40. Mm-hmm. 50, 60, you can do like it's actually a cool trick I'm gonna show you. So you basically when you're doing your six, instead of having to try to go into this like perfect zero, you just flatten your numbers. 60, 60. So like my fingers almost kind of flatten more. And so that way I can do it faster. 60. So 60, then 70, same concept, 70. Hello, I saw that. My middle finger did not come up with it. It just stayed there. I was like, wait a minute, what just happened? So 70, then 80, same thing, 80. And then 90, 90. Going really fast, sometimes your hand just like can't catch up with it. So it's typically just one time 90, 80, 90, so forth. Okay. Does that make sense? Is that good? I feel like that's a very simple, makes sense. You just kind of have the number and then that zero. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you these signs for hundred, thousand, and million. Okay. So this is how we can get, especially the hundreds, this is how we can get in one hand and still be going in numbers. The thousands and millions, we will add our other hand, and I'll show you how we do that. And we're not going to count all the way up here. It's just three signs you would just add to your numbers. Okay. So the first one we're going to do is 100. And whenever you're doing the number for like the sign for 100, I'm going to do 100 because that's like the basic of how you show 100. So it's a 1 and you're going to pull it back into a C. So 100, 100. And you do like actually bring it back towards you. So it's not 100, it's 100, 100. Like I'm bringing it back. 100. So 100. And then if you were going to do 200, you would just do 200, 200, 200, 200. 300, 300, 300. I know I'm going really fast, but also I'm a math teacher. I'm signing hundreds of numbers every day. So my fingers are very used to just moving in that crazy hand shape. So I'm trying to like make sure I'm like not going constantly like bouncing a number at you thousands of times, but I can't help it. So 300. Okay. Do you want me to show you the rest for 400, 500, 600, 700, or do you think you guys got it? You think you're good? I can show it. I mean, I'm more than happy to, but I'm like, I don't want to be sitting here if you guys are like, okay, Jillian, I already know you said this, it's this over and over again. I don't want to like waste y'all's time if that's like something you guys can already get. So 400, 500, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900. Make sense? Okay. So how would you add that number and making a number like 321? No, not that one. I always do that one. And every time I do it, I'm always like, no, I don't want to do that one. I want to do a better one. 374. Okay. And the way you would do it is you're going to start kind of like how we say it. 300, 374. So 374. So 374. Okay. And if you ever forget the sign for 100, you can just still do 374. They are going to know you're still talking about the number being 374. It's the same as how when we speak, we sometimes will say 374 or we'll say 374. Same kind of concept. Okay. All right. So that means you can count all the way up to 999 on one hand. I just always love to say that. And if you guys, especially the young ones over there, if you have friends, I would totally brag and be like, I can count up to 999 on one hand because I still do that as an adult. Okay. That's like my favorite little like little joke to tell everybody because they're like, what? And I'm like, just look. Sad. Favorite thing, 999. Okay. Let's now go on to our thousands. And it's going to be the same way, the same concept like we did with our hundreds. Okay. So for 1,000, you are going to need your other hand. Your non-dominant hand is going to be palm up. Your dominant is going to start in that one, and you're going to go 1,000. And so if you notice, I'm tapping on the base of my palm. So 1,000, 1,000, 1,000. So this also again for 2,000, 2,000, 2,000. Okay. All right. Now, if you were talking about 10,000 or 20,000, excuse me, you will do the exact same thing still. So 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. Okay? So like I said, you're just adding it. You're not changing the signs and having a new sign for this number. It's just adding to it. If you wanted to say 100,000, you would do 100,000, 100,000. 100,000. 100,000. Yep. Okay. So that's how we would do our thousands. And again, you would do the same thing. So let's say we'll do a simple one. We'll do 4,567. Okay. That's a simple number. I could have gone in the hundred thousands. I almost did. I was like, let's not do that. So I would do 4,567. Okay. So again, you're just following how we would say it. So 4,567. Okay. That makes sense to everybody. I know it's a lot. This is one of the, like I told you, we're gonna kind of start getting into where there's just a lot of signs and it takes a lot of like practicing to really catch it. Okay. So the final one we're gonna do is the millions. Okay. And so the sign for a million is again, we're gonna have our palm up. We're gonna start with our one. And you're going to go same like we did with our thousand. We're going to tap here. So 1,000. And then we're going to tap forward kind of right before our hand becomes in fingers. So 1,000,000. 1,000,000. You double tap. 1,000,000. So 1,000,000. Okay. Same thing like you would do for 100,000,000. 100,000,000. 100,000,000. I'm trying to throw those other numbers in because I realized I don't think some of our other classes have ever asked about when you do like hundreds and millions and thousands. I was like, let me just blend this and show. So, what was I gonna say? Oh, I have a favorite story I always love to tell here. It's one of my multiple favorite stories. So I had this student one year. Interestingly enough, when you do a billion, you just do a B in a circle. So 3 billion. They get to a point, I guess even they were like, nope, too much, too much. I always wondered that too. And they were like, yeah, no, billion, billion. I was like, we can't keep going, but okay, okay. But so I had this student one year and we were talking about something and we talked about his grandma. And he was talking about how old she is. And you know how kids always love to jokingly call their grandparents like 1,000 billion million zillion years old. He did the exact same thing. except it was an ASL. And so he was like, she is 1 million billion, boom. And he did this to be funny, to be a play on. So he kept bouncing and he kept pretending like he's just keeps adding and adding, like going on and on and on. And it was probably one of the funniest things I saw because he was just like, she's so old. And he was like making the motion like he just keeps going and it's bouncing. And it was one of my favorite.
Meanwhile, his grandmother was like 52.
Yes. I was like, dude, and I even told him after, I said, that's mean. That's rude. Your grandma is not that old. But like, I love seeing how even, in English, kids will play with words and they'll do things like that where they're like, you're 1 billion, zillion, million, da, da, da. Like they throw those random words in. The same thing happens in ASL. And I just love it. It's one of my favorite things to see. I love seeing play with words. It's very cool to me. So I always love to add that story because I just think it was so funny how he was just being so dramatic and he just kept motioning that she was just so ancient. And it was just one of my favorite stories, especially for that kid. So, okay, let's go back and do our numbers. Trying to pull up my list. So let's go back to our three numbers we had, our hundreds, thousands, millions. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to see how you guys are doing and we'll decide how we go on for the rest of the class. Okay. So we had our 100. So 100, 100. Then 1,000, 1,000. And then million, 1 million, million. Okay. Do we feel good on those three? Feel good? Okay. All right. So now I'm going to kind of see how you guys are feeling because we have about what, 25 minutes of class? Yeah, 25 minutes left. Um, well, no, hold on. I was about to jump ahead and be like, well, let's do this. I'm like, nope, no, no, no. We're going to follow the line. The next thing we typically do after we do numbers is we start our time signs. Okay. Um, and some of them can be a bit complicated. They're not too bad. Usually we don't ever finish. I think there's like one or two classes we were able to go all the way up to our time signs and numbers in the one class. And it was a lot. And I tried not to do that ever again because it was like I could see on their faces, their eyes just getting wider and wider, going, and I was like, I'm so sorry. So, what I was going to see is if you guys felt good with numbers and we're ready to try to start our time signs, we'll go slow and just kind of start it. We're not going to go full in depth and go through all of them, but just a few. Are you guys good with going ahead or do you want to stay? Okay, perfect. I love that I'm just adding up thumbs up and thumbs downs to my signs now. I did that like I've started a little bit, but I'm doing more of like giving you guys, you show me your thumb and I will decide. Okay, so let's go on ahead. So the first sign we're going to do is the sign for time. And so the sign for time is going to be time. So it's just like you're tapping your watch, time. Even if you're like me, one of those people who wears her watch on her the hand she writes with. I'm one of those people. I know everyone puts it on their opposite one. I don't know why, can't help it. You would still tap with your dominant hand. Okay? So even though my watch is right here and logically I should be tapping here, I always tap here. So I just always like to say, I like to say that because I've noticed like I feel like people are seeing my watch on this hand and I'm always like time. And they're like, what is she doing? But yeah, it's your dominant hand who's going to do the tapping. Okay. All right. So then the next one we're going to do is we're going to do today. Okay. So the sign for today is you're going to have two Y's and you're going to bounce it today. And you're going to bounce it twice today. 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 Yep. Okay. And you have a question? Perfect. Okay, I got it right this time. Okay, what's up? I think you're muted. Hold on. Let's see.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Does the back of your hand have to be facing the
Good
person,
thing.
or can
Yes,
it be like,
if you do this, this is looking more like stay, like
oh,
staying. So you want to have it up. And so I am being more dramatic with it. You typically have it closer here and bouncing it down here. You can't see when I do that today. So I'm bringing it up higher. You will notice that's the one thing that we have struggled with in ASL, and I can try to get a little bit higher, is that when we do it through Zoom, it is hard to always see where my hands naturally would go because sometimes it's down here, it's lower. So I'll bring it up here. So it's still this motion, but it's down here where you're more comfortable. So if you're sitting there going, this does not feel right, yeah, it's probably not. You want to be comfortable when you're signing. So today.
I'm
Did you
saying
see
it.
that, Christina? Was that you? Yes. Okay, good. Okay, so the reason oh, yes, Danielle.
Sorry, I don't know if my memory is just bad, but I thought I learned a long time ago that today was this and that this was now.
Yes, so you're actually ahead.
Okay.
I was about to say that.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, you're totally good. No, I
Okay.
love whenever anyone's seen other signs and bringing that in. Yes, and
Okay.
we won't talk about that.
Okay. Thanks.
So, like Danielle said, the one bounce is now. Now. So that's why you bounce twice for today, is because it's saying like this is today in general, whereas now, one time, now. What you're talking about, Danielle, is that is actually still a sign for today. I think it is a slightly older sign. And that is something you will notice too, is sometimes with signs, there may be a sign that the older generations use that has kind of shifted and changed a bit. I almost think of it not like slang, but like slang, how there are certain words, you would say in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and then there's a totally different like slang that is now used with kids, and I have to sit there and go, "What? I don't even know this anymore." So it does change. It kind of goes with the flow, and I think that this is probably a newer one that was kind of brought in, whereas this one is another one. I have seen it just very rarely. And so the reason it's saying now and then the sign for day, which we'll do, I think probably next week. We may get to it tonight, but it's day. So that's why going now day, because that is today. But yes. All right. Our next one we're going to do is my list is kind of an older list, I realized. So I'm trying to follow it up right. And Miss Katie, I'm sorry if I'm pulling all these random spots. I was like, that's not the list we've used lately, but
No, that's actually what I have.
oh, perfect. I was pulling up my old list. I was like, that is the old one, but we'll hope it's all the same stuff. So, okay. So we had our today and now. The next thing we're going to do is the sign for tomorrow. Okay. Now, before we get into it and I show you the sign for tomorrow, I do want to explain how time works in ASL, especially when it comes to grammar in that sense. If you know in English, we will say, she will be there tomorrow. She will go there tomorrow. We're talking about anything that happens in the future, kind of has that will be, to be kind of motion words. And then for anything that's happened in the past to say, well, she finished that ed at the end. Um, in ASL, we actually don't sign or have a new sign for those words. So like if we're talking about something being finished or finish your work, it's still signed finish. So this is finish. So if I was telling someone finish your work, meaning like you need to finish it, they haven't yet, but they need to, that's finish your work. But if I was talking about she finished her work last week, she already finished her work. We don't change the word finish to make it with that ed. We don't touch it really. And so where that time comes in is actually we add a sign, and I really like it. I think it's a very cool thing we do. And so I always like to say visualize like you are on a timeline, like you're actively standing on a timeline. Everything that's happening now is with your body right here. So today is right here. Now is right here. Okay. anything that's going to happen in the future, tomorrow, next year, next month, anything like that, is going to be in front of you. Okay. And so the reason I say that is when you're talking about the sign, when you do the sign for tomorrow, it's going to be a thumbs up kind of deal. You're going to put it at the corner of your mouth. Let's see, I'm making sure. There we go. And you're going to go tomorrow, 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 tomorrow. So it goes ahead of you because it's not happening now, but it will be in your future. So tomorrow. Okay. So then if we were to talk about yesterday, anything that happened in the past is going to come behind us because it's already been done with. Okay. There are two ways you could do yesterday. The first one is that same A thumbs up kind of shape. You're going to come in the corner of your mouth again, and you're going to bring it back to your ear. Yesterday. 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 The other way you can sign yesterday is with a Y. So same motion, but with a Y. Yesterday. And sometimes the reason for this is you will also catch that, especially I think next week's class is when we start a family, or is it in 2 weeks? I'm trying to remember which one it is. 2 weeks? Okay, I was trying to figure that, trying to remember. When we talk about families and we talk about groups and things like that, sometimes we will add the letters of that word to the sign. So like our yesterday, that Y, yesterday. That can be a bit more English based than ASL. It is still ASL, is still a sign in itself. But the full all in-depth ASL would be that yesterday. And so the reason sometimes people will add that letter is to actually help with clarifying things, especially when you talk about club, class, club, group, team, family, all of those. It's the same sign, but context codes are supposed to help you. Sometimes that can get confusing easily. So that's when they will add the letter into that motion and just have that letter there. You like I said, you will see that more in a couple weeks. We'll talk more in depth on that. But I always like to say if you do see more of the letter in there, that isn't always I could see someone saying, well, it's this, it's not why. Both are accepted, both are used. This is just a little bit more English based. Okay. And actually, I'm gonna take a break real quick here because I don't want to throw too many at y'all. I was gonna explain something else that hopefully y'all think is interesting. Is that ASL is not the only sign language there is. I know I talked about I think I talked about last week how there's Spanish sign language, French sign language, yada yada yada, all the different languages. But there's also variations of AS or sign for English words. And so what I mean by that is there are three different ones. The first one is ASL, American Sign Language. The other one is called SEE, and this one is Signing Exact English. And that one is where you do follow adding those ED words. So my favorite sentence to use is saying, I'm going to the store. In ASL, you have it more like a full ASL would be store me go. It changes a lot. But in signing exact English, that C, it would be I am going to the store. This is where you add every letter and word. It's very chunky. But that is another way of signing and communicating is through that signing exact English. And then the last one is called pigeon signing, and that's typically where you're like finger spelling everything. It's very interesting and not very often used. Sometimes there's this interesting in between ASL and C that can kind of show up. I can admit, as someone who grew up hearing and speaking, sometimes I do kind of shift in this middle a bit sometimes because my brain still is going to naturally work in English first and then ASL second. There have been occasions where it goes ASL first and then my English makes no sense. That has happened a couple of times. And it's very interesting because the people around me just stare at me like, what did you say? And I'm like, in ASL, perfect sense. You would have understood me now. English, not so much. Let me fix that. But that kind of can vary, that range. It's not bad. And the reason I say that is because you'll notice when we talk about sentencing more, like I said, the typical ASL for I'm going to the store is store me go. But it's still, you can say me go store. That is still acceptable. It's more in that in between. Okay. Because you're not doing exactly C, but you're not doing exactly ASL. It kind of varies. But I always like to talk about that because I feel like everyone thinks that ASL is the only sign language, and there's actually more. And sometimes you don't realize you've seen C and not ASL. So, but yeah, so yes.
Um, I had a question about if you're talking to someone in sign language, what do you say? Like if I was reading what you're signing,
Hmm.
like what is that word? Like I'm receiving what you're,
Receptive. Yes. So
okay.
the sign for receptive is going to be threes, and you're going to put your thumbs here, and you're bringing it towards your receptive. So this is your receptive skills. And the reason for that is because if you were to sign auditorily, it would be the same in your ear, like you're hearing it, you catching it. So this is like you're receiving the information. Think of it like you're pulling it in. So receptive skills. So that's the sign for receptive. I don't know if that's exactly what you were asking for, but that's like what I'm thinking when you said that is when you're watching someone sign and you're observing and you're catching it, you're receptively catching that information. And on that, the reverse I was going to say is if you're signing and you're signing to someone, it's called expressive. Expressive. So it's like you have a S and you're in the center and you're expressing it. It's coming out of you. Expressive. Those are two new signs that I don't even think Miss Katie's ever seen before. So I love that. Um, but yes, so I was going to actually say that brought up a good thing. I know I'm going to be talking a lot and yammering on, but if we get through this now, it'll help us later, especially when we get that chance to pick up on more science. The other thing I did want to add and explain is talking about facial expressions. And this is the sign for it. It's like two X's and you're going up and down on your face. And so facial expressions are actually really important. ASL is not just the signs, it's also your face and your body and your posture, like where you're standing. And so I always like to say, think about like you're putting on a play and you're trying to express to all the people watching you how you're feeling, how you like how you're feeling. If you're feeling mad, you're not going to be like, I'm mad right now. You're going to really show it. You want to have those eyebrows down. Like you want to show that frustration. You don't want to go crazy and look like you're a crazy person, but you do want to show that frustration on your face. Um, and the reason for this is actually kind of helps with, when we get really excited, we get really mad, we add that exclamation mark at the end of a sentence. We don't really have that here. Or our tone, oh my goodness, I'm so mad we lost this game. That tone that we have that will change. ASL is through your face. So it's the same thing. It's just a different way of approaching it. So if you're not someone who really is expression, like has a lot of expression on their face, that's okay. I always just like to say, just be kind of aware. Your facial expression may not always match your sign. And that's not that people are going to be lost. I have no idea what she's talking about, even though you have like a little bit of a pout, or you still say, like, I'm feeling kind of sad right now. They will. They just may be a little, it may take them a minute to be like, oh, wait a minute, that's just normal for you. And that's fine. But I always like to say that just in case you're like, wait, why are they not understanding me? They are. They're just expecting a little bit more in the facial expressions. So I like to add that there. You will see more of that, especially when I think we talked about last week was the WH question words. That we will see a lot there too. So yes, I'm trying to think. Are there any other questions you guys have? I don't want to throw too many more signs at you or throw too much information, but I can talk all day and night about this stuff. I love it. Any question? Yes. I see D. Yes.
Hold on, you're not muted.
So I know there are you have things like but can you add how do you make plural or ing at the end of something?
Okay. Oh, that's a good question. Okay. So I don't know if you could see, but she was doing and this is actually person. And again, we'll go through this more. So don't worry if you're like, I forget this, it's fine. This is our person when you're talking about a job, like a teacher. The way you do it is you actually will sign that word teach. So teach, and then add that This is like our person. Teach person. If you were talking about teachers, like multiples, the way it really kind of comes into is context clues. Meaning, if I'm saying my friends, we're all going somewhere. I'm not gonna, the way it kind of gets expressed is I'm gonna be like my friends. And then if I'm talking about we and like we're here, I'm gonna go like we, showing there's all these other people like here, 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 here. We, like a group of us. Okay. If I was talking about just me and my friend, like one of us, I would be like me and my friend, us. Like I'd go back and forth. There's two of us. So those are more like kind of your, what's the word? I'm trying to remember the word I use for these descriptors. I think was what I said, descriptors, or adding those slightly variations, especially when in English we do we, you, I, she, he. A lot of that does not, it's implied and not always
It's
explicit. Like
pronouns. That's the word you're looking
thank
for.
you. I know that. Well, I was also thinking about the, no, it is pronouns. Wow. I don't teach English, guys. Okay. So don't come at me for that one. That was not great. I can't even catch myself for that. But yeah, so the way like pronouns work is really just showing like we are or they are or like pointing like she is, he is. If you're talking about someone and they don't know who, that's when you would describe and say boy, girl, woman, man, which we will do, I promise. I know I'm just throwing 1,000 signs at y'all right now. Um, but that's when you would add that. But most of the time, if you're just pointing to them, that works too. I know I was raised, you don't point at people, that's very rude. Please point. In ASL, that is like how you clear it. Now, obviously, you're not going that one over there to catch their attention, but being like that, her, we're standing there, that person, that sort of thing. If you're talking about multiples of like objects for animals, really, you can just add the number. So if you're talking about like 3 animals, 3 dogs, 3 cats, you just add that number, and that automatically, means more than one, obviously. So that's how you can kind of do that plural. If you're not sure, like how many animals, you can do signs like a few, which again, we will do, I promise. Few, many, some, like adding those words to show that it's plural as well. So that we typically do with, I think we do with our family because we do family and like people, like common people and pronouns. We add that there. But yes, that's how the plurals like the ES's and S's kind of come into play in ASL because we don't worry about those. They are implied. So, any other questions or clarifications? If that did not make sense, please let me know. If you can't think of any, that's totally fine. We'll stop here. I'm not adding 5 minutes of signs for the last little bit, but let's real quick go over our today, now, tomorrow, and yesterday, and then we'll finish for today. Okay? So we had today, those two Y's, and they bounce today. Today. Then we had now, one time, one time. And you want to make sure your hands are palm up. There you go. Now. And this, I always like to think about when your mom calls your name and she's really mad at you and she has that like firm now kind of deal. That's how I think of this now. Don't know why. That's always how I think of when I go now. I'm like, now you come here now. And then we had tomorrow. So with the thumb, tomorrow, tomorrow. And then yesterday. 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 Or the Y, yesterday. Yesterday. Okay. So we're going to end class now. I know we're about 3 minutes early. That's totally fine. We will be using up our time the rest of these weeks. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Next week, I think, I'm trying to remember what the theme is for next week. We'll continue with our
Uh,
time for
yeah, we'll
sure.
finish time, and I think we were doing WH question words.
That's right, because those will go together really well. So we'll do time and WH. Oh my goodness, you just had to ask me a math question. I love it. So
Here we go.
I know I did get really excited when I taught this before. So he asked, how would you say 12 and a half? You would still do 12, and then the way you do any numbers like a half, a fourth, whatever, is you go 1/2. You bring it down, up, down, 1/2. It's like they has the line there, 1/2. You can always add a line, but really it's 12/2, 12 and a half. So yeah, 1/2. My fun little math. I love it. Alrighty. Well, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of y'all's week, and I will see you guys all next Tuesday. Bye, guys.